Alright, so from reading this title, you probably have a good guess as to where I'm going to go with all this. But first, let me show you what I'm talking about. Don't worry about my damn costume, I'm trying to make a point here. Everyone, this is Mordhau, a first-person slasher, not shooter, game based in the medieval European era of knights and chivalry. Now you're probably thinking, hold up, isn't this game, Mordhau, just that game Chivalry, but like different? You're absolutely correct in assuming such things, but ultimately, like me, you are dead wrong. Swinging your sword in a medieval fantasy game has been around since the first dungeon crawlers from the 90s. This kind of genre ain't nothing new. Look at Skyrim with the Souls mod or even Minecraft. But the way in which you move your sword in both Chivalry and Mordhau are something to be learned, mastered, and cheesed upon. Allow me to show you. What we've got here is a moving crosshair. You see that little tail every time I'm moving the mouse around? That's where your swing is going to go. So if I click the mouse button to swing the sword, check it. The swing goes right in the direction that the cursor was in. So you can really play around with tons of different swing angles, although in reality there's really only like 6 basic moves to learn from. So it's essentially a first-person fighting game now, but with multiplayer maps and game modes that get up to 64 people in one server. That's not as impressive as it was 5, maybe even 10 years ago, but 10 years ago we only had Chivalry, which was developed by a lot of the same team that went off to develop this game Mordhau. First, let's talk about the actual games themselves. I don't know if you've ever played Chivalry before, but in my opinion, that one was even harder to learn and master the controls of than Mordhau. It was also really only popular for like 2 or 3 years after its release in 2012, with a bit of a spark coming back in 2015 with like bullshit DLC, and once again in 2019 just before Mordhau's beta release. There's always been a dedicated fan base of armchair sword swingers ever since Chivalry 1 from way back when dropped. So the need to fill this niche gap wasn't necessarily closing, but it certainly started to dwindle after updates for Chivalry stopped and servers started shutting down. From a business standpoint, like Valve with CS2, I can understand why updating or maintaining a game for a certain amount of time can only be feasible until a certain point. Like, if the player base is obviously only slowing down to dedicated superfans, then why keep all of the servers up? Why update everything that needs to be changed? Waste the resources, potentially break the code, fuck up the game even more. It's too much overhead for any common middle management chucklehead to sign the okay off to fix servers. That's too much risk. Which brings me back to why I even made this video. Mordhau is in trouble. Well, it was in trouble. It's honestly now just a dead game, and this was all far too little, far too late. But games like this have burned memories into my mind that I simply will not forget until I grow old and senile. So I'd like for games like this one to be remembered for what they try to do. Mordhau and Chivalry are both great games. I've never had the chance to play Shiv 2, so hopefully the community will continue on from there. But the community that remains on Mord, those that anxiously wait for the final update from the devs or even leaks about the elusive Mordhau 2, what about those mongoloids? What's going on with them? Yeah, oh, not to shit on my own community here, but everyone that I've seen on Mordhau who isn't trying to be a shitter in the chat is atrociously toxic, overwhelmingly egotistical, and so narcissistic that they can't even tell they're being delusional. Does that remind you of anyone that you know? Anyways, let me talk about it. If you were unfortunate enough to purchase Mordhau for the full price like I have, and happen to pop into a game, I want you to check out who necessarily is in the lobby. What's the most common thing that you're seeing, other than, blatant racism? Those dudes are cheesed. Like, truly, the most highest level that you have seen on pretty much any game. And they're right the fuck in here, in your lobby, on the other team. Now, most will just simply sigh, cope, and say, get good, to the problem that I'm about to address. But I'm not necessarily talking about the skill gap here. There's two mentalities that I'm trying to get at. One mentality is that the longer a game is out, the longer one has time to truly master it. The other thought process is, shouldn't there be like a little new baby mode for new baby players if they want to get into the game? I try to look at it like this. There's still a dedicated fan base on all platforms when you think of Mordhau. They've been playing the game since 2019, 2020. They've got at least 3 to 5 years on you. Someone potentially sitting down every single day and playing this shit. Of course there's going to be people that are better than you at it. So if you try going in and doing the same thing with no years of experience and expecting the same kind of results, you're going to go insane. You're not able to cheese like these level 300s without practicing, but then again, how in the fuck does one practice getting good? It's a bit of a catch-22, right? Like, how are you going to be able to practice and get better at a dead game if it seems like everyone who's online is already better than you? Or so you think. The feedback loop in which we were taught to enjoy games was assign objective, complete objective, get reward. So to assign an objective of, game end that motherfucker, fail the objective by getting cheesed upon, then receiving no reward over and over again, one could possibly get frustrated with this or even reconsider why they're playing the game. The main problem for someone who plays video games casually like me is that I've always seen them as a hobby and not something to take seriously or even do every day. I love going outside. I don't want to spend all of my time playing video games if it's not going to get me anywhere, which I'm sure a lot of you are starting to realize about gaming too. It's just become more of a waste of time than it has been more of a time for entertainment. It's been the mentality of just because I like it doesn't mean I have to be an expert / good at it. I kind of just want to play the game, but that's just it. Play the game, not get played within the game. Which again is why I think Mordhau has been completely KIA. The devs were working on updates all the way up to their 5-year anniversary, after which they said, get fucked, we're on to bigger and brighter things, which I have no idea what that could be because there isn't any developments coming out of the Mordhau team Triturnion. The devs don't give a shit if you're a new player, unless if you're giving them money, or unless if you're a dedicated fan buying everything that they got. If you're a filthy casual, like me, then this game ain't got no place for you. Triturnion doesn't have a place for you. Now, I didn't mention this before, but that's who develops the game, by the way. Alright, so back to the story. So this other guy, Stouty, he was one of the better players in the entire game. Literally held #1 spot for like a year or so, but he hated the devs of Mordhau. You could constantly see Stouty's name pop up both in the Mordhau Discord and their subreddit, basically uploading clips of himself shitting on lower level or under-skilled players, while at the same time, when he went against someone more of his speed, he gets cheesed and started to make videos complaining about the mechanics of the game. He wasn't the only one making videos about this game either, and add this kind of shit on top of all the toxicity in the community, which is basically summed up of people shitting on others for being bad at using the game's mechanics, and you set up a nice shit sandwich of failure here. Which, by the way, it's time to talk about the mechanics of these kind of games. So in Mordhau, Chivalry, Shiv 2, and a couple other games now, what they use is called the 240 control scheme. It's that little tadpole tail that I talked about earlier, this thing. So I said earlier that you could angle your swing in different ways. Well, guess what? You can angle your timing in different ways based on how fast or slow you turn. Mordhau as a game is objectively fun. It's just the shitty community encouraged by the old dev team that created a terrible skill gap and an even worse environment for newer players. Anyways, the controls, like I said, are easy to learn, but difficult to master. With that, we have 2 different attack variations. When you swing your sword, based on the angle of your camera, you can either strike earlier or later than the normal hit speed for your opponent. These are called drags for slow ones or accels for fast swings. They'll look kind of fucky on the outside in, but for you, all you're doing is simply turning as much as you can, as quickly as you can, in the right amount of time. You also mess around with footwork, but that's its own thing. Sword fighting, as I've been told, is a bit like a dance, so you play off of your opponent or dance partner. Whatever he's doing, you gotta do it with them, or vice versa. You're kind of mirroring them. Knowing where and what to do and when is exactly how you defeat your opponent, which is the other mentality that I was trying to get at. What if, God forbid, you want to learn the game? Fuck the catch-22, fuck the odds. You want to keep playing and keep getting frustrated until one day you are a gamer born again hard. Max the fuck out, teaser of all mechanics, the Goober King. No little baby mode required. All you need is a first step. Well, let's look at Stouty again. He's got his own YouTube channel. You can make your own opinion of him. Like his own opinions or not, there's no denying that he knew how to play Mordhau. He also knew what was wrong with the game, and had his own ideas on how to fix it and how to attain new players. But the devs at Triturnion hated Stouty's ass right back, and would constantly be beefing with him through the game to try and 1v1 him instead of actually working on the game. I'm not kidding. This shit really got this childish for a minute. But there was a competitive scene for both Chivalry and Mordhau, and sometimes there'd be tournaments with actual money involved. Did the devs care? Hell no. They even got paid at one point to put on a competitive game mode in Mordhau, to which they said, fuck you. Y'all play 5v5s? Here's 3v3s, bitch. We got comp at home. And then proceeded to make the worst iteration of competitive multiplayer matchmaking you have ever seen to this date. So Stouty would usually kick the devs' asses, either in these tournaments or in the 1v1s, and then the devs would update the game to better suit their own playstyle. This went on and on again for like 8 months in 2020 and on, and while everyone was at home, bored as hell, those who were still playing Mord at the time noticed the effects, and players started to drop like fucking flies. Stouty got pissed at one point about how the devs handled the game and dropped an absolute bomber of a video, basically laying out all the details as I'm telling you right now. I'm just making my version of it funny because I have no skin in the game. I've had the unfortunate opportunity to witness this all go down on my feed, so I'm telling you as it is. I'm not going to lay you with all the details. Go watch Stouty's video for that shit. But it seems as honest as possible with a little bit of his own opinion, which is, to be understood. It's his channel, plus the guy's pissed. His favorite game went down the shitter. But all that you guys need to know is basically, because of that crush guy I was talking about before, he disagreed with the community, repeatedly, up until, like, the man of the people, basically, of that community went out and said, hey man, this shit's fucked. Stop giving us out the same thing. Then the CEO of the company of Triturnion goes, good point. And then they go off to release the same old shit that they've always been doing, and also now they have a plushie that you can buy, which is half of the price of the game. I don't necessarily know what was the last nail in the coffin for Mordhau here. Could it be the lingering smell of 4chan backwash that shows up on servers every now and again? Or is it just plainly the fact that it's a 5-year-old game, marketed towards a kind of niche audience already, with little to no feedback support for that said audience? Either way, Mordhau started out as an awesome slasher game, but tie in the bullshit with how the hardcore fans scare off new or casual players like me, the dev teams themselves straight up refusing to listen to their supporters, and Triturnion's removal of like 3 different game modes, by the way, it's safe to say that Mordhau shot itself in the foot when it came to growing its fan base. But yeah, folks, I dressed up in a fucking night suit to talk about a computer game for 10 minutes. I hope this was worth it. You have a good day, y'all, and go play Shift 2.